a 3-hour romance disguised as a war movie that made veterans walk out of theaters, a film so historically inaccurate the British government formally complained, and a propaganda piece funded by a cult leader that destroyed careers and lost over $40 million. These are 15 of the most hated war movies of all time. Number 15. Pearl Harbor, 2001.
Packing.
Orders.
Michael Bay took one of the most tragic days in American history and turned it into a love triangle with explosions. That's Pearl Harbor in a nutshell, and critics absolutely savaged it. This thing cost $140 million, ran 3 hours long, and spent most of that time on a romance between Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, and Kate Beckinsale that nobody cared about. The actual attack on Pearl Harbor doesn't happen until nearly 90 minutes into the film. And when it does, yeah, the effects are impressive. Bay knows how to blow things up. But the problem is everything surrounding it. The dialogue is terrible. The characters are cardboard cutouts. The historical accuracy is laughable. They even threw in a completely fictionalized account of the Doolittle raid just to give the movie a happy ending. Veterans hated it. Historians hated it. Roger Ebert gave it 1.5 stars and called it a 2-hour movie squeezed into 3 hours, about how the Japanese staged a surprise attack on an American love triangle. But somehow, despite all the hate, Pearl Harbor made $450 million worldwide. Audiences showed up for the spectacle, even if they left disappointed. The film won an Oscar for Best Sound Editing, which is about the only thing anyone could defend. Everything else, the acting, the script, the 3-hour runtime, got torn apart. Even the cast seemed embarrassed. Ben Affleck later admitted he wasn't proud of the film, and Bay himself has said he wished he'd spent more time on the story and less on the effects. If you want a good film about Pearl Harbor, watch Tora Tora Tora. If you want a mediocre romance with some impressive explosions, well, this is what you get. Number 14. Flyboys 2006.
The Bristol, the Surprise, and the Ace E5 Ace. And here is a French detachment.
Qu'est-ce que vous faites là?
What?
World War I aerial combat should be exciting. Biplanes, dogfights, the Lafayette Escadrille. It's all great material. Flyboys had all of that and still managed to be boring, historically inaccurate, and visually ugly. The film cost $60 million, and most of that went into CGI that looked terrible even by 2006 standards. The story follows a group of American pilots who volunteer to fly for France before the United States enters World War I. It's based on real history, but the film takes so many liberties that historians gave up trying to correct it. The characters are stereotypes. The dialogue is painfully earnest. And the dogfight sequences, which should be the highlight, are so over-reliant on bad CGI that they feel like a video game cutscene. James Franco leads the cast, and he's trying his best. But the script gives him nothing to work with. His character is a ranch kid from Texas, who becomes an ace pilot in about 20 minutes of screen time. There's a forced romance with a French woman that adds nothing. There's a villainous German pilot with a bright red plane who might as well have a mustache to twirl. Critics destroyed it. It holds a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience didn't show up either. It made only $13 million domestically. A disaster for a $60 million film. And the worst part is, the real story of the Lafayette Escadrille is fascinating. These were genuine heroes who risked their lives before their country even entered the war. They deserve better than this. Director Tony Bill, who's primarily known as an actor and producer, never directed another major theatrical film after this. Flyboys didn't just fail. It failed in a way that cold careers and wasted a story that deserved to be told right. Number 13. Windtalkers, 2002. John Woo wanted to make a tribute to the Navajo Code Talkers, the Marines who used their native language to create unbreakable codes during World War II. Instead, he made a movie about Nicolas Cage having a mental breakdown, while some Navajo guys happened to be nearby. That's the biggest complaint about Windtalkers, and it's completely valid. The film focuses on Cage's character, a Marine assigned to protect a Navajo code talker, but ordered to call him if capture seems imminent. It's a dark premise, and it could have worked, but Woo and the studio spent so much time on Cage's trauma and his slow-motion action scenes that the actual code talkers became supporting characters in their own story. Adam Beach, who plays one of the Navajo Marines, does great work, but he's constantly overshadowed. The production was troubled from the start. MGM wanted an action movie. Woo wanted something more thoughtful. What ended up on screen satisfied nobody. The battle scenes are pure Woo, all slow-motion doves and explosions, but they feel out of place in a World War II film. The emotional beats don't land because the script never gives the Navajo characters enough depth. Critics were harsh. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars and said the film's heart was in the right place, but its execution was all wrong. The audience didn't show up. It cost $120 million and made barely $77 million worldwide, a massive bomb. And worse, it wasted an opportunity to tell a story that genuinely mattered. The Navajo Code Talkers were real heroes. Their work saved countless lives and was never broken by the Japanese. They deserved a film that centered them, respected them, and told their story with honesty. Windtalkers isn't that film, and that's why it's hated. Number 12, The Last Castle, 20,001.
Put your hand down. Put it down.
These men are not here for unpaid parking.
Rod Lurie directed this prison drama about a disgraced general, played by Robert Redford, who leads an uprising against a corrupt warden, played by James C. Gandolfini. On paper, it sounds decent. In execution, it's a boring, predictable slog that wastes 2 great actors on material that never rises above a basic cable movie of the week. The film cost $72 million, which is insane for what's essentially a bottle episode stretched to 2 hours. Most of that money went to the cast. Redford was still a big name, and Gandolfini was riding high from The Sopranos. But neither of them can elevate a script that's this flat. Every beat is telegraphed, every character is a type. The ending is exactly what you expect from the first 10 minutes. What really sank this movie, though, was the timing. It came out in October 2001, just weeks after September 11th. Audiences weren't in the mood for a movie about Americans fighting Americans in a military prison. The film tanked, making only $27 million worldwide. DreamWorks took a massive loss, and the film quickly disappeared from theaters. Critics weren't kind either. The reviews were lukewarm at best, with most praising the actors while admitting the film itself was dull. Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 stars and called it a story we've seen before, told without enough energy to make us care. Even fans of military dramas found it tedious. The worst part is, there's a decent movie buried in here somewhere. Gandolfini is genuinely menacing as the warden, and Redford brings dignity to a role that doesn't deserve it. But the script is too safe, too predictable, and the direction never takes any risks. The Last Castle isn't offensively bad, it's just boring, and in some ways, that's worse. Number 11, Behind Enemy Lines, 2001. Owen Wilson plays a Navy pilot who gets shot down over Bosnia, and Gene Hackman plays the admiral trying to save him. It sounds like a straightforward action thriller, and that's exactly what it is. The problem is, it takes a real conflict, the Bosnian War, and turns it into a brainless video game where American exceptionalism saves the day, and the Bosnians are just faceless bad guys. The film was controversial before it even came out. Survivors of the Bosnian War accused it of trivializing a genocide. The real-life pilot the story was loosely based on, Scott O'Grady, sued the studio because he felt the film misrepresented him and his actions. He eventually settled out of court, but the damage was done. The movie had a stink on it. Director John Moore, making his feature debut, shoots everything like a music video. Rapid cuts, shaky cam, explosions for no reason. There's a scene where Wilson outruns a missile on foot. It's absurd. The script is full of cliches, and the villains are cartoon Serbians who exist only to be evil. There's no nuance, no context, just Americans good, everyone else bad. Critics were split. Some called it a decent popcorn flick. Others ripped it apart for being historically irresponsible. It made $91 million worldwide on a $40 million budget, so it was a financial success. But it's also a film that aged terribly. Watching it now, the jingoism is overwhelming, and the lack of respect for the actual conflict is glaring. Owen Wilson has said in interviews that he's proud of the film, but most people who care about the Bosnian War despise it. Behind Enemy Lines isn't just hated for being dumb. It's hated for being dumb about a tragedy that killed hundreds of thousands of people. Number 10. Red Tails, 2012.
In the air, 63 aircraft destroyed on the ground. No losses in their first wave. Outstanding. Pass along my congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
George Lucas spent 23 years trying to get this movie made, and when it finally came out, it was a disaster. Red Tails tells the story of the Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American military aviators in the United States Armed Forces. It's an important story, one that absolutely deserved a big-budget Hollywood treatment. What it didn't deserve was this script, this direction, and this bizarre creative vision. Lucas wanted to make an old-fashioned adventure movie, something that felt like the war films he grew up watching in the 50s and 60s. That's fine in theory, but in practice, it meant the characters were all one-dimensional archetypes. The dialogue was cringeworthy, and the action scenes were so over the top, they felt like a cartoon. The film cost $58 million, mostly funded by Lucas himself after every studio passed, and it made just under $50 million domestically. The aerial combat scenes are the only part that works, and even those are hurt by the decision to make everything CGI. There's no weight to the planes, no sense of danger. It looks like a video game. The performances are fine. The cast includes Terrence Howard, Cuba Gooding Jr., and a bunch of younger actors doing their best, but they can't overcome the terrible script. Critics were brutal. Red Tails holds a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. And most reviews mentioned how disappointing it was that such an important story got wasted on such a mediocre film. Audiences were more generous, especially in the African-American community, but even they admitted the film had serious problems. Lucas blamed racism for the film's failure, claiming Hollywood didn't want to support a movie with an all-black cast. Maybe there's some truth to that, but it doesn't change the fact that Red Tails just isn't very good. Number 9. The Green Berets, 1968.
Who's that for?
I don't know, boy. I'll wait till the choppers are done.
John Wayne made a Vietnam War movie in 1968, right in the middle of the war, and it's exactly as bad as you'd expect. The Green Berets is pure propaganda, a film so tone-deaf and divorced from reality that it became a punchline almost immediately. Critics destroyed it. Anti-war protesters picketed theaters. And even people who supported the war admitted this thing was embarrassing. Wayne co-directed and starred as Colonel Mike Kirby, a Green Beret commander fighting the Viet Cong. The film presents the war as a simple good versus evil conflict, with heroic Americans saving grateful Vietnamese villagers from communist savages. There's no moral ambiguity, no questioning of why we're there, just John Wayne doing John Wayne things in the jungle. It's a World War II movie wearing a Vietnam costume. The problem is, by 1968, everyone knew Vietnam wasn't World War II. The Tet Offensive had just happened. Americans were watching the war on television every night. They saw the body bags, the burning villages, the protests, and then here comes John Wayne telling them it's all noble and heroic and worth it. People weren't buying it. Roger Ebert called it a heavy-handed propaganda film that didn't even have the decency to be entertaining. Renata Adler of the New York Times wrote that it was so unspeakable, so stupid, so rotten and false that it passes through being funny, through being camp, through everything, and becomes an invitation to grieve. Those are devastating reviews, and they kept coming. The film made money, pulling in over $32 million worldwide, but its reputation was destroyed immediately. Even within the military, reactions were mixed. Some veterans appreciated that someone was trying to show their side. Others thought it made them look like idiots. Wayne defended the film for the rest of his life, but history hasn't been kind to it. The Green Berets is regularly cited as one of the worst war films ever made, a relic of a different era that aged terribly before it even finished its theatrical run. Number 8. U-57, 1-2000. This one caused an international incident. U-571 is about Allied forces capturing a German Enigma machine during World War II, which actually happened. The problem is, it was the British who did it, not the Americans. But Hollywood decided to rewrite history, give the credit to the US Navy, and hope nobody noticed. The British noticed. They were furious. The film stars Matthew McConaughey as a submarine commander who leads a team to board a disabled German U-boat and steal its Enigma machine before the Nazis can destroy it. It's a decent thriller, well-paced, tense in spots. But the historical inaccuracy isn't a small detail. It's the entire premise. The real operation was carried out by HMS Bulldog in 1941, months before America even entered the war. British politicians condemned the film. Prime Minister Tony Blair was asked about it in Parliament. The Royal Navy released statements. Families of the sailors who actually captured the Enigma machine were publicly angry that their loved one's heroism was being erased for a Hollywood action movie. Director Jonathan Mostow defended it by saying, "It's just entertainment, not a documentary." That didn't help. American critics were mixed. Some enjoyed it as a submarine thriller. Others criticized the lazy patriotism and historical revisionism. Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 stars and admitted the film worked as an action movie, but acknowledged the historical liberties were problematic. The film made $127 million worldwide on a $62 million budget, so it was financially successful, but its reputation never recovered. The controversy overshadowed everything else about the movie. Even people who liked it as a thriller had to admit the decision to change the nationality of the heroes was indefensible. There were plenty of actual American naval heroics in World War II they could have told. Instead, they stole someone else's story and slapped a flag on it. That's why U-571 is hated, and why it's regularly cited as one of the most historically irresponsible war films Hollywood ever made. Number 7. Memphis Belle, 1990. This should have been great. The Memphis Belle was a real B-17 bomber that completed 25 missions over Europe during World War II, and its crew became national heroes. Director Michael Caton Jones had access to real planes, a solid cast including Matthew Modine and Eric Stoltz, and a decent budget. What he delivered was a sanitized by-the-numbers war movie that strips away everything interesting about the real story. The film follows the crew on their final mission, where of course everything goes wrong. Engines fail, fighters attack, crew members get wounded, but it all feels staged and safe. There's no real danger, no sense that anyone's actually going to die. And that's the problem. The real Memphis Belle missions were terrifying. Bomber crews had a life expectancy measured in weeks. The losses were staggering. But this film makes it look like a Sunday afternoon adventure. The script is full of war movie cliches. The crew is made up of stock characters: the farm boy, the ladies' man, the cynic, the religious guy. They all get their little moments, their inspiring speeches, and then everything works out fine. Disney does World War II, and critics called it out immediately. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars and said it was astonishing how little emotional impact the film generates. What makes this especially frustrating is that William Wyler's original 1944 documentary about the Memphis Belle still exists, and it's incredible. Real combat footage, real danger, real stakes. If you want to understand what those crews went through, watch that. Don't waste your time on this hollow Hollywood version. The film made just over $27 million on a $23 million budget, barely breaking even. It came and went without making much impact, which is probably the worst thing you can say about a war movie. Memphis Belle isn't offensively bad. It's just boring, safe, and completely forgettable. The real crew deserve better. Number 6, Midway, 2019.
We'll all be speaking Japanese. Or most likely we'll be dead.
Well, Mr. Browning, commander of those bombers?
Roland Emmerich shouldn't be allowed near historical events. Independence Day, fine. The day after tomorrow, sure. But the Battle of Midway deserved better than this CGI mess. Emmerich took one of the most important naval battles in history and turned it into a video game cutscene, with wooden acting and explosions every 30 seconds. The film cost $100 million, and it looks like most of that went into rendering endless waves of CGI planes and ships. There's no weight to anything. The battle scenes are incomprehensible, just rapid cuts of planes diving and ships exploding. You can't follow the action. You can't tell who's winning. It's just noise. And when the film slows down for character moments,
The Bristol, the Surprise, and the SE-5 Ace. And here is a French detachment.
Qu'est-ce que vous faites là?
the dialogue is so bad, you wish the explosions would come back. The cast includes Ed Skrein, Patrick Wilson, Woody Harrelson, and Dennis Quaid, all actors capable of good work. But the script gives them nothing. Skrein plays Dick Best, a real-life dive bomber pilot who was crucial to the American victory. But the film reduces him to a cocky hotshot who delivers cringe-worthy one-liners. There's an attempt at a love story that goes nowhere. The Japanese characters are barely developed at all. Critics savaged it. Midway holds a 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. And most reviews pointed out that the 1976 version, despite its flaws, was significantly better. That film at least tried to show both sides of the conflict and give the Japanese perspective. This one just turns them into video game enemies. The film made $126 million worldwide, so it technically didn't lose money. But it's another example of Hollywood taking an important historical event and turning it into an empty spectacle. The Battle of Midway changed the course of World War II. It deserves to be remembered, understood, and respected. This film does none of those things. Number 5, Gods and Generals, 2003. Ron Maxwell made Gettysburg in 1993, a 4-hour Civil War epic that was long but respectful and historically detailed. Then he made Gods and Generals, a prequel that runs 3.5 hours and feels like Confederate apologia disguised as a history lesson. Critics destroyed it, audiences avoided it, and it became one of the biggest bombs of 2003. The film focuses on Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and other Confederate generals in the early years of the Civil War. And here's the problem. It treats them like tragic heroes fighting for a noble cause. There's endless talk about honor, duty, and defending their homeland. What there isn't is any meaningful discussion of slavery, the actual reason the war started. The few black characters in the film are happy servants who love their masters. It's gross. Stephen Lang plays Jackson, and he gives it everything he's got. The performance is committed, almost too committed, but the script has him delivering long, preachy monologues about God and duty that stop the film dead. Jeff Daniels returns as Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, but he's barely in it. Robert Duvall plays Lee, and even he can't make this thing watchable. The film cost $56 million and made less than $13 million. It was pulled from most theaters. After 2 weeks, critics called it one of the worst films of the year. Roger Ebert wrote that it's a film about men who are idle, vain, foolish, and mad, and it doesn't know it. The New York Times called it a Confederate hagiography. Maxwell released a longer director's cut that runs over 5 hours. Nobody asked for it. Gods and Generals isn't just hated for being boring, though it is. It's hated for its revisionist take on the Confederacy and its refusal to honestly engage with what the Civil War was actually about. Number 4. Battle of the Bulge, 1965. This film had everything going for it. A massive budget, an all-star cast including Henry Fonda and Robert Shaw, and one of the most dramatic battles of World War II as its subject. What it didn't have was any commitment to historical accuracy whatsoever. Battle of the Bulge plays so fast and loose with the facts that military historians still get angry talking about it 60 years later. The real Battle of the Bulge took place in the winter of 1944 in the densely forested Ardennes region. It was cold, snowy, and the terrain was brutal. The film was shot in sunny Spain with barely a tree in sight. The German tanks are completely wrong, the tactics are nonsense. The timeline is compressed beyond recognition. It's less a historical drama and more a generic war movie that happens to borrow a famous name. President Dwight Eisenhower, who commanded Allied forces during the real battle, was so offended by the inaccuracies that he came out of retirement to publicly denounce the film. That's how bad it is. When the actual Supreme Commander of Allied forces tells you your movie is garbage, you've got problems. Critics agreed. The New York Times called it a painfully dull and inaccurate epic. The film cost $6.5 million, enormous for 1965, and barely broke even. Audiences expected a serious war film and got a cartoon. The script is full of melodrama and speeches that sound like they were written by someone who'd never met a soldier. Robert Shaw tries his best as the German tank commander, but even he can't salvage this mess. What's frustrating is that the real battle was incredible. Desperate German gamble, heroic American defense, brutal winter conditions. All of that gets tossed aside for tank battles that look like they're happening in a parking lot. Battle of the Bulge is hated because it had one job: tell an important story accurately, and failed completely. Number 3. The Monuments Men, 2014. George Clooney assembled an incredible cast: Matt Damon, Cate Blanchett, John Goodman, Bill Murray, and somehow made one of the most boring World War II films ever. The Monuments Men is about Allied officers tasked with recovering art stolen by the Nazis, and it should be fascinating. Instead, it's a plodding, toothless mess that wastes everyone's time. The film can't decide what it wants to be. Is it a heist movie, a war drama, a comedy? It tries to be all three and fails at each. The tone is all over the place. One scene tries to be serious about the Holocaust. The next has Bill Murray making jokes. Nothing connects. The characters are paper thin. The stakes never feel real. And for a movie about saving priceless art, it sure doesn't show us much of it. Clooney directed, co-wrote, and starred, and he clearly cared about the subject. The real Monuments Men did important work, saving countless cultural treasures from destruction. But the film treats their mission like a minor inconvenience rather than the race against time it actually was. There's no tension, no urgency, just a bunch of middle-aged guys wandering around Europe having mild adventures. Critics were brutal. The film holds a 31% on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger Ebert's site gave it 2 stars and called it a disappointingly dull affair. The audience agreed. It made $155 million worldwide on a $70 million budget, which sounds okay until you factor in marketing. Sony took a loss. The worst part is, this story deserved better. The Monuments Men were genuine heroes who risked their lives to preserve human culture. They saved works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Michelangelo. But this film reduces their accomplishments to a bland, forgettable slog. That's why it's hated. It took something remarkable and made it boring. Number 2, Saints and Soldiers, 2003.
I got it.
This low-budget World War II film came out of Utah, funded largely by members of the Mormon Church, and it shows. Saints and Soldiers isn't just historically questionable, it's also preachy, poorly acted, and so cheap-looking that it feels like a high school production. Critics ignored it. Audiences who stumbled across it wish they hadn't. The story follows a group of American soldiers trapped behind enemy lines after the Malmedy massacre. That's real history, a genuine atrocity where German SS troops executed American prisoners. But the film barely engages with that horror. Instead, it focuses on faith, redemption, and characters delivering speeches about God every 10 minutes. It's less a war film and more a religious tract with some guns. The battle scenes are embarrassing. The explosions look like fireworks. The German soldiers speak English with vaguely European accents. The weapons are wrong. The uniforms don't fit. Everything feels like a community theater production. And the script is so heavy-handed with its messaging that even religious audiences found it condescending. What makes this even worse is the film somehow spawned 3 sequels, all equally terrible. The franchise became a cottage industry for the filmmakers, pumping out cheap war movies aimed at faith-based audiences who would tolerate the low quality in exchange for the religious content. Critics who bothered reviewing it were harsh. The few mainstream outlets that covered it called it amateurish and dull. The film cost $700,000 and made over $1 million, so technically it was profitable. But that doesn't make it good. Saints and Soldiers is hated because it takes a real tragedy and exploits it for a faith-based agenda. The soldiers who died at Malmedy deserve better than this cheap, preachy mess. Number 1. Inchon, 1981.
Still doesn't know?
Saturday night in the States and Truman's at home in Independence, Missouri. So, soldier!
This is the worst war film ever made, and it's not even close. Inchon was funded by Sun Myung Moon, the leader of the Unification Church, also known as the Moonies. He spent $46 million, an absolutely insane amount for 1981, to make a propaganda film glorifying General Douglas MacArthur and pushing his bizarre religious ideology. It destroyed careers, bankrupted a studio, and lost so much money that exact figures are still disputed. Laurence Olivier plays MacArthur, and he's clearly drunk or confused or both. His performance is slurred, incoherent, embarrassing. This is one of the greatest actors in history, and he's stumbling through scenes like he doesn't know where he is. Jacqueline Bisset, Ben Gazzara, and Toshiro Mifune are also in this, all clearly doing it for the paycheck. Nobody looks like they want to be there. The film is 2 hours and 20 minutes of incomprehensible battle scenes, religious preaching, and MacArthur monologues that go nowhere. The dialogue is insane. At one point, Olivier looks at the camera and says he's an instrument of God. The Korean War battles look like they were staged in a parking lot. Nothing makes sense. Nothing works. Critics annihilated it. Gene Siskel called it the worst movie of the year. Roger Ebert said he'd never seen anything like it. The film opened in 3 theaters, made less than $600,000, and disappeared immediately. Olivier later said accepting the role was the biggest mistake of his career. Inchon is hated because it's incompetent, insane, and funded by a cult leader to spread his propaganda. It's not just bad, it's offensively bad. This is the gold standard for terrible war movies. Not every war movie gets it right. Some fail because of bad scripts, some because of studio interference, and some because they were funded by cult leaders with delusions of grandeur. These 15 films earned their terrible reputations, and honestly, most of them deserve to stay forgotten. War is hell, and so are these movies.